Hello, folks, and welcome to another edition of the Dr. Mark Foster Show. Today, I want to talk about a quite different subject, something that is mentioned in the Baha'i texts and which has been commented on by the Universal House of Justice, the supreme administrative body of the Baha'i world, and that is the Calamity. Um, there are references to some type of universal cataclysm occurring at some point in time, although the precise nature of that calamity is never discussed. There are hints in various places, but nothing is said specifically. So to begin and to put it into context, I want to read a letter which was written by the Universal House of Justice, in which they quote from a passage by Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith. Here it is. The House of Justice points out that Baha'u'llah in no uncertain terms has said, O ye peoples of the world, know verily that an unforeseen calamity followeth you, and grievous retribution awaiteth you. Think not that which ye have committed hath been effaced in my sight. That's the end of the quotation. Now the House of Justice continues. Therefore it considers that it would be fruitless to attempt to foresee the time or the nature of a calamity which Baha'u'llah himself said was unforeseen. No doubt the remarkable progress being made in scientific endeavor holds true in the study by experts of geological upheavals, but we cannot be certain that predictions of earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or tidal waves caused by such phenomena can be identified as the cataclysmic events to which Baha'u'llah refers. In letters to other believers who have asked questions similar to yours, the House of Justice has emphasized that the friends, meaning the Baha'is, the friends of God, should not waste their time and energies in fruitless speculations on this question. Rather, they should concentrate every ounce of energy on winning the goals of the 5-year plan that refers to a teaching plan back in the 1970s, which they have before them, confident of the knowledge that whatever may happen in the world, however calamitous it may outwardly appear, will promote God's unalterable purpose for the unification of mankind. It appears to me, and bear in mind that this is just my own view, that the beginnings of that calamity, which the House of Justice said it was fruitless to speculate upon, have just started. So in other words, the speculation part is certainly relevant, but if I am correct, this situation with COVID-19 around the world, the huge numbers of deaths that are being caused by it, the onset of perhaps, as some economists think, another Great Depression, perhaps even worse than the Great Depression of the 20th century that began with the crash of 1929 may have started. This, I think, in my own humble opinion, may be the beginning of that calamity. The beginning. I don't know what will happen afterwards, and I think that speculating on exactly how it will unfold, whether it will lead to wars, and very commonly severe economic crises have led to wars as people fight over limited available resources. That's possible. I don't know. But I think that we can see the process beginning to unfold right now before us. I wish, personally, that there was more of an awareness of the times in which we are living. That does not appear to me to be the case with the vast majority of people. It seems to me that most people I talk with, and I'm not referring to anybody in particular, this is just a very general statement, that most people I talk with have their head in the sand. They are treating this as simply another disaster, as simply a crisis that we need to deal with, and do not recognize what I think may be the deeper ramifications of COVID-19 and what it may portend for the future of the present-day world order, or what sociologist Emanuel Wallerstein referred to as the capitalist world system. That capitalist world system, which has been propped up for many years by the International Monetary Fund in the United States, by the Federal Reserve, and in other countries by similar monetary bodies, has, I think, now reached a culmination. Any attempt to prop it up now, with the massive rate of unemployment, with the regular tumbling of the stock market, which of course is not in itself an economic indicator, but it does indicate a lack of investor confidence in the economy. And a falling stock market can, in some cases, predict economic indicators of that may come in the future. I don't know. But certainly the rising unemployment rate, the increasing recession, or what some people call depression, which in a sense is caused by COVID-19, but in a deeper sense, I think, is really caused by the basic contradictions in the capitalist world system. That system has been held together artificially for many years, and now finally, I think, it has reached the breaking point where any attempt to hold it together might well fail. So I realize that what I just said might be interpreted by some people as negative. To me, it's not. Here's why. I think that our hope lies not in the present. Our promise does not exist in this present world order. Jesus spoke reportedly about people who put their hope in the present world order. His words, "Let the dead bury their dead." There are many people who, while outwardly alive and mobile, are spiritually dead, have no spiritual life within them, have no heart, have no concern for the suffering of their fellow human beings, and are instead concerned merely with filling their own pockets. I read a story yesterday that there is a concern that much of the money which has been authorized by Congress to be spent on businesses and the unemployed might instead be seized by large corporations. That is a serious concern which some watchdogs are expressing right now. The fact that people would even consider that at a time when many people are desperate, when physicians, nurses, respiratory therapists, janitors, janitorial technicians, people who work in hospitals are worried about their lives, in many cases working for little or no pay. Some people who have left their homes, for example, and gone to New York City to help support the people who are working at supporting the people who have corona vaccine. As you can see, I am choking up a bit talking about it. This one story, I watched it, I believe it was on MSNBC, of a fellow from Kansas, where I live now and have lived for the last 27 years, who traveled from Kansas to New York City to help in the fight against COVID-19. He made a video where he talks about the situation that he is in, about the suffering of healthcare workers and the suffering of patients, people all around him dying, body bags, mass graves. If that isn't a calamity, then what is? I don't know. I don't know. So, again, it does seem to me as though the calamity has started. Most people are unaware of it. Those that recognize it, in many cases, people with positions of power and wealth, are looking for ways to capitalize on it, to benefit themselves, to fill their own pockets and bank accounts, and do not appear to be concerned about the suffering of the average person in the world. Instead of people looking at this problem globally and focusing on it as a global international issue, instead many people are simply looking at their own countries and are talking about the sufferings, in my case I hear, of Americans. These are the problems that Americans are going through. And it literally sickens me to hear that repeated over and over and over again, when not only, Americans certainly are suffering, and we have the highest rate in this country of COVID-19 of any country in the world. But there are places where people have no medical care at all. In many parts of the developing world, people who are dying alone, people who are isolated, people who live where there literally are no healthcare workers. There are no physicians. There are no nurses. There are no respiratory therapists to take care of them. And instead, people are still attached to the false god of nationalism. Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the Baha'i faith, called nationalism a false god, and it certainly is right now. Instead of caring about humanity as a body and asking how can we become united and deal with this problem, this coronavirus, as a collective body of humanity, people are instead focusing on themselves, on their own communities, on their own states, on their own nations, and not really putting much concern on other people. A story I heard several days ago was that there was concern that some other country had intercepted some supplies that were intended to go to the United States, and my thought was, so what? So what? What does it matter whether one country or another has these supplies? If we are all one body of humanity, which I believe we are, then we should be concerned. We should love each other. We should focus on the well-being of each other and forget about these artificial separations. You know, when the Apollo astronauts took their space voyages, what several of them said is that when they were flying around the Earth or going from the Earth to the Moon, one of the main things that impressed them was that from that point in space, there were no borders. There were no borders. There was simply the Earth, a single globe. So again, those are my concerns. I do think that calamity, whatever it is, has started. Speculating on it in advance would have been a waste of time, as the House of Justice said. But I think now we're in it. There's nothing to speculate about other than where it's going to lead. We don't know. Who knows where it'll lead? But I think we can pretty easily tell where we are. So I hope that in this time of global suffering, not just the suffering of my nation or my state or my community or my religion, but the suffering of all of humanity, that in this time we can at the very least recognize what is happening to the planet and try to reach across the boundaries and love our fellow human being. Practice the golden rule. The golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That is essentially a covenantal statement, because I'm saying that I want to do for other people what I expect them to do to me. That's a statement of covenant. And that covenant is so sorely lacking in today's world. Many people who consider themselves to be deeply religious do not seem to have made that covenant, or if they have, they've forgotten about it a long time ago. Let's remember together, in this time of isolation, when we are being rightfully encouraged by epidemiologists and public health experts to stay in our homes, those of us who have the privilege of doing that, to spend this time reflecting on how we can put that golden rule into practice, how we can be of service to others and not to ourselves. On a somewhat somber note, that concludes this broadcast of the Dr. Mark Foster Show. Be well, and please take care of others.